How's it going, everyone? Hope you're well, and welcome back to Music with Michelle, and welcome to my first reaction to the 2018 Lord Huron album Vide Noir. This is the final chapter of my journey through Lord Huron's discography. I literally just finished filming my reaction to Strange Trails, so that video will be on my channel right now. I'll leave a link to it in the description. I'll also leave a link to the first video I did for Lonesome Dreams. That'll also be on my channel, again, link in the description. So it's a bit of a bittersweet moment, as I'll be fully caught up with Lord Huron's albums after listening to Vide Noir, and I'm not too sure what to expect from this album really, because I haven't really heard too much about it. I heard a lot about Lonesome Dreams and Strange Trails, but not so much about this album, so not too sure what to expect. As always, I will be doing a tier list during this video as well, but I'll explain that more when we get to it. So for now, let's get straight into the first song, which is called Lost in Time and Space. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I'm really not too sure what to expect musically from this one.
Lost in time and space, aimless drifting in a far-off place, drowning in the sea of stars, lost in the galaxy of cocktail bars, consigning to the night. She went west to chase her dreams. She took my money, but she didn't take me. Why go wander unknown worlds? Stay right here and let the cosmos twirl. I don't know who I am, I don't know where I am. Lost in time and space, aimless searching for a long lost face. If I don't find her, gonna tie that noose. I quit my job and packed my car. I'm wide awake, I say her name tonight. I don't know who I am, I don't know where I am.
Okay, so just before we get into the first song, I'm just going to run through the tier list that I mentioned at the start of the video. I do tier lists in these reaction videos as I feel like it gives a good visual representation of how I feel about a song immediately after I've listened to it. And I'm sure you know how a tier list works, but in case you don't, pretty much the lower the tier is, the less I like the song. As you can see, the bottom tier there we have Miss. This is for when I think a song is just flat out not good. Even if I don't like it, I just don't think the song is very good at all. One above that is not for me. Sometimes you hear a song and it's just not for you. One above that is re-listen. Sometimes the songs can take a couple of listens to really click with you and for you to understand whether you like it or not. One above that is straight to my playlist. That's for when I really like a song and it goes into my sort of general playlist that I listen to every day. And the top tier is called What Do It Mean? So I like to treat the top tier as basically, if it's in this tier, it's one of my favorite songs from that artist, and one of my favorite songs from Lord Huron is What Do It Mean? So if any songs go into that category, it means that I think it's one of the best songs from the band. So hopefully we have a few more of those on this album. And so yeah, starting off with song number 1, Lost in Time and Space. A very interesting song, actually. I love the melody and the overall vibe to the song, and it's very interesting because it feels like it does have the elements from the past 2 albums, but it kind of takes a more, I want to say like a more like futuristic take on it. Whereas when I was listening to Lonesome Dreams and Strange Trails, I felt like I was sort of like in a, I don't know, like an old American Western. And this one, although it is titled about space and most of the lyrics are about space, it did fit that kind of vibe. It felt like a, I don't know, like a 2001 Space Odyssey kind of vibe. It was like a lost out in space, just really ethereal sounding. It's very interesting. I might be getting ahead of myself and I might be thinking of it way too deeply already, but it would be interesting if, you know, Lonesome Dreams was, the story takes place in like a, it kind of sounded like a journeyman sort of tale, right, going through different environments and things, but mostly through like desert. Strange Trails sounded like it took place in a forest. And is Vide Noir taking place in outer space? I'm not too sure, but that's the kind of vibe I'm getting straight away just from the first song. But I did really enjoy it. I think the instrumentation was fantastic. Yeah, I love the slower pacing of it. Vocals were great as usual from Ben, so I'm going to say it's going to go straight into my playlist. A really solid start. And yeah, let's move on to song number 2. And song number 2 is called Never Ever. Okay. Wasn't expecting to hear that on this album.
I will trace the line.
Okay, I really was not expecting that from this album. Yeah, it's something very different. We've not really heard that from Lord Huron before. Very, very, very sort of rocky. There was a song on the last album, Strange Trails, which I felt had a bit of a rock element to it, but this one definitely is something that we haven't really heard before. Gotta say, I'm a big fan of that song though. I'm a sucker for a bass, right? I love a good bass line, and obviously the main part of the song was that bass. Really cool effect on it. Sounds like it might have been maybe tuned down or something, had like a really thick sound, and in the background you can hear these sort of like bass noises, best way to describe it, I'm not too sure, but like these, like, you know, that typical alien sounds you hear in like space movies and things like that. There's some really cool effects in there, and also, yeah, the vocal effects they put on Ben sounded very cool and kind of reminded me at times a little bit. He sounded a little bit like Brandon Flowers from The Killers, especially on their first album, Hot Fuss. They kind of used that effect in a few songs, and yeah, it sounded quite reminiscent of that. I've got to say, I'm a big fan of that one. That really did take me by surprise. Maybe that's the direction this album's going. It's going to be a bit different from what we've heard before. Each album so far seems to be progressing in a certain way where the music's kind of taking a new adaptation, maybe getting a bit more modernized. Yeah, very cool sound so far. I'm actually really enjoying the sound. So yeah, I think straight away, again, straight into my playlist. That was a very fun song. I really enjoyed that one. So yeah, let's move on to number 3. And number 3 is Ancient Names Part 1. Sounds like a spooky Lana Del Rey at the moment. I think I'm going to let part 2 play out because it sounds like they might transition into each other, so I'm going to let it just play into the next one. Yeah, I gotta say, I really wasn't expecting this kind of music from this album. It's really taken me away, actually. I just was not expecting it to go down this route. I do wonder, actually, did people enjoy this album when it first came out? Was it a bit of a shock when it came out, or did people enjoy it? Because I feel like it's taken such a different tone to the other two that, I don't know, if you're listening to it, you know, if you've been waiting, I think this one came out 3 years after Strange Trails. If you were waiting 3 years for an album after that one, and you got this, were people disappointed? I'm not sure, because for me, this is really cool. I love this new rocky element, this sort of like synth space rock that they're going for. I think it works. I think it's really, really good. I'll talk about part 1 and part 2 together because they were pretty much the same song. Just, yeah, I loved it. I mean, again, I'm a big fan of bass, and the bass is really prominent in this one, but I really like the use of like synths that they're incorporating during this album. Yeah, I did not think they would take this path. I get that after three albums, you kind of have to differentiate a little bit and you can't keep doing the same thing. But I think that it's kind of still on the same track as the other two. It has elements of those albums, but it's just taking it to like a whole different level, a whole different space.
If you'll pardon the pun.
And I really enjoy that. I think it's very unique, and I'm glad that they've gone for this more like rocky. Rocky's the right word, but it's just a different. No, it's very hard to put into words because it's still very ethereal and it still sounds very cosmic, but at the same time, it sounds quite grounded and quite recognizable, and it's blending really well. There's also more themes in these two songs about space and the cosmos and things like that, so definitely feels like a very space orientated album. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of it so far. I really wasn't expecting it. It's taken me away a bit, but I'm really liking it. And these two songs as well, straight into my playlist. Really cool. I love that transition between the two as well. How it kind of like built up, then went really heavy for the second one. Yeah, big fan so far. Let's see where we go with number 5. And number 5 is called Wait by the River. Again, these weird noises, but it sounds good. It's different. This one definitely felt more recognizable to what we've kind of been used to from Lord Huron over the last couple of albums. I feel like people would have been a lot more receptive to a song like this as compared to what we've heard so far on the album. But that was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. It falls into that category that I spoke about in the last couple of albums where I really love their slow stuff. I think their slow stuff is incredible and it works so well. They do it so well. I think the music they make like this is always beautiful. It always works, and this is no different. Incredible song from start to finish. Really weird noise at the start, but I still enjoyed it, and it just came out of nowhere. All the instruments hit, the bass playing that same riff all the way throughout, but it just carries the song. Melodies are incredible, the chords are beautiful. Yeah, that is an unbelievable song. I think from a production point of view as well, listening to it with these headphones on, ambiance is crazy. It's kind of spiraling around my ears while I'm listening to it, and the bass is kind of centralized into my left ear, and the vocals are more in the right ear, and it's just from a production point of view, it works really well. Obviously, we'd only work with headphones on, but yeah, great, nice little touch there. I really noticed it towards the end of the song as well. And like I've mentioned about Lord Huron's music before, it feels like a journey when you're listening to it. The imagery is just very vivid, paints a great picture in your head, and every song has a story to it, and you can kind of follow it along. And yeah, I think this one is one of the best examples of that. And I think it is one of the best examples of their music, and it's one of the best songs I've heard from them, so that's gonna have to go into the top tier. Really love that song. Okay, and up next is number 6, which is Secret of Life, which is the only song I have heard on this album. I'm not too sure where I heard this song or how I found out about it, but yeah, I have been listening to it for quite a few years now. It's the only song I've heard on this record. But yeah, I do really love this song. And the reason I really like this one is because it did have that more rocky element to it. The bass is like the main crux of the song. A really cool guitar throughout as well, playing the solo, which I really enjoyed. I just love the pacing of the song as well. Feels like a very fun song, very upbeat, great to listen to. So yeah, that's one of my favorite Lord Huron songs, and it was a contender for being the title of the top tier. I was going to call it Secret of Life, but I went with What Do It Mean. But yeah, it's going to go into the top tier. One of my favorite songs from the band. A bit like a lot of their other music, just very addictive, and I just want to keep listening to it over and over again, despite the fact that I've heard it 1,000,001 times. And so yeah, with Secret of Life out the way, let's move on to number 7, which is called Back from the Edge. Before we get into this one, I have noticed a trend actually from the albums is I usually prefer the second half of the album. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the case for this one as well, because I really enjoyed that first half. I really enjoyed it. But I have a feeling just by listening to the first few seconds of this song that they might be changing up a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if I feel the same about the second half as I do the first half. Okay, that was number 7, Back from the Edge, and yeah, this one felt very grand, very epic. Wonder if due to the contents of the song and the lyrics and all that kind of stuff, I wonder if like the first part of the album took place in space, and now he's talking about how he's come back to Earth through a hole in the sky and stuff like that. So maybe this second part of the album is going to be more familiar to what we've heard before. Not too sure. Again, I might be completely off and reading into it too much or too little or whatever, but that's just the kind of idea I'm getting from it so far. Yeah, maybe this song's quite important to like the Lord Huron lore. Not too sure. Interesting song though. I can't really say I enjoyed it too much, to be honest. It was, yeah, very grand, very large scale. I liked the first couple of verses following along with that about, you know, talking about how he was going through space and he fell through the sky, doesn't know what to believe anymore, landed in the ocean, don't know how he survived, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not too sure if I really enjoyed the music element of it. Again, it might be an important part of the overall lore of Lord Huron, but I think just from a music point of view, I think I'm going to put it into the not for me category. I mean, the same thing here applies to all the other songs where like the production was really great and the storytelling was great. I just think it didn't really grab me from any other angle in terms of the actual music, and I don't really feel that need to sort of re-listen to it again, see if I like it. I just kind of, yeah, it just didn't really feel like my kind of song, but definitely not a miss. I think still a really good song, but it's just, yeah, not really for me. Okay, now let's move on to number 8, which is called The Balancer's Eye. Once again, a very different song to anything we've really heard before, but I'm a big fan of it. I think it sounds great. This one almost feels like a continuation from Back from the Edge, talking about how he didn't get let into heaven and things like that. I really love this new style of music and the tone they're going for. It's something we haven't heard from them before, but it sounds very unique, and I like, especially the guitar part, like that little lick that was playing throughout the chorus, very good. I think the tonal shift is really working, and whereas the other albums, even the newest album, Long Lost, utilize a lot of old-fashioned instruments, this one's definitely taking advantage of more modern-day instrumentation, like I mentioned, like the synths and things like that. And yeah, everything just sounds ethereal. It sounds otherworldly, you know. I've not really heard this sound before, and I'm a really big fan of it. I really wasn't expecting it, kind of taken away from the whole album itself. But yeah, The Balancer's Eye, A, fantastic name for a song, and B, going straight into my playlist. Again, another really solid song, and I'm loving this trajectory that we're going on. And although there was a bit of a blip in the road with Back from the Edge, yeah, so far, unbelievable album in my opinion. Okay, so now let's move on to number 9, When the Night is Over. These chord progressions are so nice. Oh my, what a song that was. Another great example of like a long song, over 5 minutes long, that just absolutely flew by. I feel like this one is very similar to how I felt about Wait by the Water, where it was like a perfect example of like the encapsulation of a Lord Huron song. Like, this is unbelievably beautiful, so angelic. So apologies, I had a couple of technical issues whilst I was talking about When the Night Is Over. See, I can't really remember too much of what I was saying, but yeah, overall just an absolutely beautiful song. Honestly, one of my favorites that I think I've heard from the band. And yeah, it's not wasting any more time, it's going to go straight to the top. Honestly, the perfect example of what I love to see from Lord Huron. I think I mentioned it in the last reaction for Strange Trails, and I said I'd love to see them do a whole album like this, and yeah, this just reaffirms that point there. It's just unbelievable music. Let's see where we go now. We've got 3 songs left, and the first of which is called Moonbeam. That was number 10, Moonbeam, and yeah, that's a very different song, very different to a lot of the other stuff on here, and a very unique song in terms of their overall discography. Yeah, not too sure what to make of that one really, because at the start I really wasn't too keen, but as the song went on I started to really get into it a lot more, started to enjoy it a bit more. Yeah, very unique song, just really struggling to tell if I actually like it or not. I'm really not too sure. I think the best place for that scenario is probably for it to go into re-listen, because yeah, there's a couple of songs on the last album that did this where I wasn't too keen on the start part. As the song went on, I kind of got more into it, started to enjoy it a bit more. So yeah, I'm going to put that one in re-listen. It's actually the first one that's gone into re-listen so far. Yeah, it's a very different song. I appreciate the approach. I'm just not too sure if I like it or not, but yeah, re-listen it is. And let's move on to number 11, the penultimate song. And that song is also the title of the album, Vide Noir. was Vide Noir, and a bit like Moonbeam, a very different song, taking a very different approach to anything we've really heard on the album so far. At the same time, they were reintroducing some elements that we haven't really heard since the start of the album, with those sort of more spacey sounds. I've got to say, I'm also quite a big fan of this one as well. Again, it started off, I wasn't too sure if I liked it, but the more it went on, I started to get more into it. Really cool bass line that carried on throughout. Great guitar in there as well. I think there was a sitar that was playing the riff towards the end as well, and throughout the middle. I think from an instrumentation point of view, I thought it was really quite unique and a bit different, and they were introduced a few elements that we were kind of used to, but they kind of did it in a different way. And a song that the pacing of the song is, again, quite different to what we've really heard so far, but I do quite appreciate it. I mean, we're coming to the end of the album now, and it does feel a lot more experimental towards the end. Like they're trying a few different things, and it almost feels like it's lost its way a little bit, like its overall vision, where at the start it felt quite cohesive. Now it kind of feels like it's fallen apart a little bit, but at the same time it's still working. And I gotta say, I thought throughout the song I was going to be putting it in the re-listen category, but especially that last minute or so I really enjoyed, so I'm gonna put it straight into my playlist. And that now leaves us with one more song left. It's the final song on the album, number 12, Emerald Star. That was the last song, Emerald Star. I think I'm sensing a common theme throughout this album. I think that is the fact that I really like the slower ones. I really appreciate what they did at the start, especially with the more rocky stuff, but the slow ones on this album have been absolutely incredible. Just for the reasons I've mentioned before, the etherealness of it, the ambiance, just the imagery it creates, and just how it just makes the time fly by. Like, that was nearly 4 minutes long, completely flew by. All the other songs, especially at the top there, posted through, you don't realize you're listening to a song for that long. And yeah, it's just, again, it just is a great example of what I love in a Lord Huron song. It just really does work for me, and this one's no different. I think it's the melodies and the harmonies as well, so addictive, just so listenable, digestible, and make it very memorable as well. It sticks with you, and yeah, it's just a great example of a fantastic song. I think Emerald Star, I think it has to go at the top as well. Definitely one of my favorites on the album, and a fantastic way to end what has been a very unique album. So yeah, that is the final rankings for all the song on Vide Noir. As you can see, there's only one song that I didn't really like, which was Back From The Edge. Then there's only one song in re-listen, which is Moonbeam. Whole heap of songs in straight to my playlist, and then as you can see, there's 4 songs at the very top list there as well. I said it in my Strange Trials reaction as well, how having 4 at the top is a very rare, very hard thing to do, to get 4 songs on an album that you think, yeah, that's some of the best work from the artist. I think what's very impressive about it in the context of this album is that there's only 12 songs on there, so a third of the album I thought was some of their best material as a band, which is really good going. I think it shows how much I enjoyed this album. But yeah, those are my final rankings. Let me know, do you agree with them? Is there any you'd have higher, any songs you'd have lower? Let me know. But yeah, that is my reaction to the 2018 Lord Huron album Vide Noir, and that is officially me all caught up with all of Lord Huron's discography. I've got to say, it's been an incredible journey going through all of these albums, and I do kind of regret starting with Long Lost because, you know, it would have been great to then transition to that one to see how it would work in the sort of wider scale in terms of their entire discography, listening to all their albums in a row. But I'm still very glad I've sat down and finally listened to these 3 projects, because honestly, they've been some of my favorite albums that I've listened to this year. I think especially Vide Noir, I think it's been a pretty incredible journey for this album, to be honest, because I was not expecting it to go the way it went, but I'm actually very happy with the outcome and the actual product itself. I'm not sure if people actually like this album, you know. I don't know if people would have received it too well after 2 outstanding albums before, because this one took a very different direction, had a complete different tone. I think from an instrumentation standpoint, it introduced a lot of elements that we haven't really heard from the band before, all brand new elements that we're kind of unfamiliar with in terms of the rocky sound, the synthy sound, that kind of cosmic spacey effect that we heard on quite a few of these songs is something completely brand new. So yeah, I'm not too sure how people like this one when it came out, or if they still like it now, if it's aged well, if it hasn't aged well. I can only say it from someone who's gone from the first album to the 3rd album in quite a quick succession, and I very much enjoyed it. Yeah, if I waited 3 years for it, would I be too happy? I'm not too sure, because obviously I'm not in that position, but yeah, I can see why some people wouldn't have liked this one if that is the case, but at the same time, I really do appreciate the different direction they went and trying different things. And of course, the album after this was Long Lost, which took a completely different turn to this one as well, took a more country element. So if we're going by the timeline of the albums, you know, they come out, they look like every 3 years. The first one I think was 2013, then it was 2015, 2018, then 2021. So if it's following that trajectory, we might not be seeing a new album until next year, which is very sad, but hopefully they can release a few more singles like they released Ace Up My Sleeve a few weeks ago. I've also got my reaction to that song on this channel if you want to hear that as well. But overall, I'm very impressed with this album. I really do like the different nature of it, and I think what's great as well is it kind of opens the door for so many different ways they can take their next album. You know, we don't know which direction they're going to go, but now I've completely caught up with all the albums. I'm definitely going to dig more into the lore of Lord Huron, because I've heard a lot about it. I just haven't had the chance to look at it yet because I wanted to listen to the music first, but now I'm all caught up. I'll definitely be checking it out. So if anyone's got any links to good resources, please let me know. I was thinking as well, I've done all the albums now, so it could be a good idea to do an overall tier list of every single song in their discography, ranking them as I did here. I think that could be quite an interesting video to make, and I'm sure it will not be divisive at all. But yeah, it's going to be very hard to do because so many of these songs I really enjoyed, and there's very few on here that I didn't really like. I don't think there's a single song out of their entire discography that I straight up thought was a bad song. There's just a couple that just weren't really for me, but I think overall most of them I really like or I absolutely love. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought of this album. Do you have a favorite song? Do you think it's aged well over the last 5 or so years? And yeah, that is the Lord Huron album trilogy come to an end, but as I said, I will still be making a lot of content around Lord Huron and around music similar to this in the future, including icebergs and reaction videos, tier lists. So if that's something you think you'd be interested in, please feel free to subscribe. I just want to say a big thank you if you've made it this far into the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a nice day.